Welcome to Something to Wrestle With.
Something to wrestle with.
Bruce Prichard. Well, you know. That's not
on the Tuesday
real.
Raw, Vince is going to receive the Humanitarian of the Year award. Hypothetically, what do you think one of the boys back in the day would have had to say about Vince winning the Humanitarian of the Year award?
Which boy? Jim Cornette, motherfucker. Who knows? He was a humanitarian. By God, just ask him.
Well, just looking for some impressions here, trying to spice the show up. Let's keep it moving. This segment here shows a representative from the Minority Athletes Network show up and say that McMahon gave less money than he promised and his check bounced twice, and his favorite wrestler is Steve Austin. And Austin's here with a black tie, jeans, and no shirt or jacket. So that's pretty funny. He winds up picking McMahon's pockets for $1,200 and gives it to the charities. Undertaker's music plays, and Druids bring a casket to the ring, but it winds up that it's actually Kane coming out of the casket, and Mankind coming from the other side of the ring. They put Austin in the casket, and Austin is trapped in there as Kane stands on top of the casket. And that, of course, builds towards the First Blood match, which is a title defense against Kane, a King of the Ring. This is a pretty notable show for the Mankind situation, but it wasn't the main event. As crazy as that sounds, the Hell in a Cell, where Mick Foley nearly fucking died, was not the main event. It was, in fact, Steve Austin and Kane for the world title. And that almost didn't happen because Austin was battling a serious staph infection to the point that he was even hospitalized after a house show on Friday. And allegedly his fever got up to like 104. So he's just in crazy, crazy shape here and nearly missed the show. What can you tell us about Steve Austin's staph infection and how touch and go that was as we build the King of the Ring?
Well, you look back, and it's during a time, too, that the business was so hot for Steve. Steve is one of those guys, tape it up and go. I compare Steve a lot to Randy Savage. Let's go back and tape it up and go. And Savage did the same thing at WrestleMania 5 with Hogan, where he had it was very similar. Steve wasn't willing, didn't want to take the time off, but it got to the point where, Steve, if you don't take the time off, this is not something to mess around with. And he would hide it so long that eventually you look at it and go, now it's a lot worse than it would have been if you had just gotten attention as soon as symptoms started. Steve had to go in, had to get fluids, and had to get, antibiotic drip just so we could get him through that. And got released, came in and did his business that night. And that was a shocker because for a lot of us, you left the title on the guy. You had the champion. He carried the championship for a long time. And if Steve was going to be the man, then you leave the title on him. And here to do the one night switch over to Kane was, I don't know that it was the most popular choice in the world amongst people. It worked, but there were a lot of people that didn't like it.
I guess we should tell you the story in the match here is, even though Undertaker damn near killed Mankind, they're back out here and they're going to do dueling chairs. But eventually, Mankind ducks a chair shot. That causes the Undertaker to hit Steve Austin. Austin does a hell of a blade job. He's busted open, bleeding a river, and when Earl Hebner wakes up from one of his many bumps that night, he sees it, calls for the bell, and Kane is your new WWF champion. The match only got 3.25 stars. I guess it told an okay story, but compared to the two Mick Foley matches, even with all the gimmicks of the cage coming down and it being a blood match, it just wasn't as good. And even as a kid, I was like, well, how the fuck are we going to know if Kane's bleeding? He's got a mask on. And it's a red mask. That was the idea. No, I get it. But even then, it was like, well, okay, Steve Austin's definitely winning. And it didn't happen. Instead, you guys go the other way. Kane winds up winning. And he's the world champion as we get to the next night. I guess, we should mention Austin stuns everybody in sight. He winds up winning the world title. He's driving vehicles and taking apart celebrations. And the thing that everybody always asks about that night, though, is for one night you went back to the old belt. Do you have any idea why that was? Like, Austin had been rocking the new, what they call Big Eagle belt with the blue strap. But on this night, where you're celebrating Kane's win, it's just the regular old winged eagle that he won at WrestleMania 14. Any idea why that would have happened that way?
No clue. I mean, it could have been in repair, and those were also during the days that championship they would have to go in and get repaired and different things, and you would use what you had. So I have no idea what that particular instance on that evening was, but that may have been it.
The main event of Breakdown really sucked. We covered this in the archives. It goes down September 27th, Hamilton, Ontario. They go 22 minutes, Austin, Undertaker, and Kane. They do like a double pin deal. Vince tries to leave with the belt, jumping into a limo. Austin's supposed to run after him, but he's just walking. It's really not the visual people probably imagined. I know you sometimes have been pretty vocal about not really loving a three-way match. This one was just sort of doomed from the start, was it not?
Well, same thing. Again, in my opinion, you only had one heel in there, and Kane. If you've got two heels and a babyface, now the babyface is in some jeopardy, and I'm really rooting for him to overcome. At this point, I'm kind of happy if Undertaker wins. I'm happy if Steve wins. I really don't care that much if Kane wins. I don't want him to win. But he was the only heel, and it was the reverse psychology of how you would normally put a three-way together. And that's why it didn't work. It didn't work because the audience is confused. Is the same thing at SummerSlam. Who the hell do you root for?
Right.
I love Stone Cold Steve Austin. I love The Undertaker. Super strong characters. But now I've got Kane in there, and I don't care as long as somebody beats him.